Elizam Escobar, artista, pintor, ex prisionero político por la lucha de independencia de Puerto Rico.
What I'd like to talk about is art and politics, but before we get to that, I wonder if you could talk about the way that you see the present political situation in Puerto Rico. In the 70s and 80s, there was certainly a very vibrant and important movement for independence in Puerto Rico. And that isn't as visible now. There was, of course, a tremendous amount of repression, and people went to prison, and the situation does not seem as visible now, but I wonder how you assess what has happened in the period since you were first incarcerated.
Well, I think that historically, the different struggles have moments of, high moments and low moments, and moments that seems like it's disappearing, or seems like it's dispersed, and then there is like a regrouping again, and then there is a new resurgence of the struggle. So I don't think it's only happening in this historical period, but it's something that happens, through the whole historic, through history.
Mm-hmm.
And so the more we know about the historical, historical views of struggles, the better we can see this, situations, and I think the better we can deal with the weaknesses of these periods, and always having the vision that new developments will come, because the main contradictions are still there. It's a matter of time when people will develop again, a more clear consciousness of what's going on, and people who belong to the movement and the new generations will see new ways of struggle, like the movement to substitute, the capitalist system, which was mainly a Marxist analysis, and the communist parties who were trying to develop, a socialist system, an economy that was main objective was to distribute, the wealth among the society, and the working class was supposed to be in power. So many experiences happened, and in some places was a better situation, but so what I'm trying to say is that the experience is so short and small compared to the lifespan of capitalism that it is like the first chapter to me. And a lot of things happen that, compared to what happened with the development of capitalism, the development of socialism in the Soviet Union, in China, and other places, really they surpass, what happened in the first stages of capitalism. So I think that the new struggles to change a capitalist orientation and mentality are starting to happen again. And I think that the understanding of the dynamics of capitalism will help to always maintain the perspective that this is going to be a long, long struggle. And so that, just to Paul Mao, when he used to say that the logic of capitalism was victory after victory after victory until the final defeat, and that the logic of the socialism, the revolution, was defeat after defeat after defeat until final victory. It is something that give us the real way to interpret the way this is going to happen. This is not going to be a final victory from the beginning. This is going to take years of struggle to change not only the system but the ideas that dominate, the way we live and the way we see life and existence. So I think that in Puerto Rico, for example, and there is always the energy that this vision has provided the independence movement, but always had to be not only applied to the specific conditions of Puerto Rico, but that every country and every struggle has to contribute to add to this vision. And so I think that today, there is a lot of mixed economy happening, like in China, and it's developing within the limits of what can happen now. Understanding that the United States, have a hegemony in the controlling, of the policies and the economic development of Latin American countries. And I think that in Puerto Rico, we are following, what's happening in South America, and the movement have to learn, and I think in some aspects, there's been some learning of these experiences that from the 20th century, But I think that one of the limitations of the struggle all over, the world, is that basically still a very one-dimensional thinking in the leaders of the revolutionary movement. Basically, the vision that a revolution is only about taking power, I think is not a healthy vision. I think that we have learned in this historical moment that we have to develop structures, that we have to always think that the changes and the revolution is happening all the time, and that we don't have to wait until a revolution takes power, as the classic view of what a revolution is, in order to be able to influence the minds and hearts of the people. I think that, like in Puerto Rico, I think that there is the colonial structures, and then there is the development of our nation that have been happening parallel to this colonialism, or the colonial domination. And I think that a lot of people think that to be free is also a matter of practice. It's not a matter of a new system that is going to give us these freedoms, and how an individual will contribute according to to their capacity to the free development of society, with the relation of the collective and the individual. And so, for example, Juan Antonio Correger, who was the leader of the Puerto Rican Socialist League, in his last years, he said that he had lived independence of Puerto Rico, because once you struggle for the independence and for freedom, you are already living it and participating and creating it.